एकम् अक्षरम् हृदि निरन्तरम् भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् अहम् साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता वा पवनचलनरो आत्मनिष्ठो देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावः कोऽहं भावयुत कुतो वरदिह दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं. Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, it has been our practice to select two verses randomly from the work Guruvachika Kovai, authored by Muruganar Swamigal. The verse selection is done by Revatima. We read each of those verses, and each verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning. That is followed by the practice of self-enquiry for about 15 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditation on its meaning, and the practice of Atma Ucharam are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande ji, and that will be followed by the offering of the chanting of Sri Ramana Ashtotram. The chanting will be online by Vaibhavji and Prarthnama, and the rest of us will practice Atma Ucharam then also with the support of listening by inquiring who is the listener. We begin this evening satsang by taking up the first verse selected for us, verse number 902. Verse number 902, since the reality, the perfect one, is completely established as wholly Mauna. Why suffer distress by continuously thinking, I am that? Since the reality, the perfect one, is completely established as wholly Mauna, why suffer distress by continuously thinking, I am that? When the mind has reached this state of Mauna, this indeed is establishment in the Supreme, which is abidance with the I extinguished. When the mind has reached this state of Mauna, this indeed is the establishment in the Supreme, which is abidance with the I extinguished. Once the I has completely died, there is absolutely no possibility of thinking, I am that. So, Bhagavan in Ulladu Narpadu says, Nanudiyad Nilai, Na Maduvai Nilai. That where the I does not arise, that is where the Tattvamasi, that you are, that is there. It is not in holding that Tattvamasi as a thought that you are identified with the Supreme. In holding the Tattvamasi, you remain as an ego, and the Tattvamasi remains as an object to be achieved. Whereas in the practice of who am I, you start the dissolving of the I directly. That is why it is called as the direct path. In Tattvamasi holding, one has to be told, Ajyadaraya Srotasasamam. Think continuously. Hold that thought like unbroken thread. Don't bring any other thought. In Atma Ucharam, that instruction is not required. Either you have let go of the thought and held who am I, or you are not doing Atma Ucharam. That's all. So, the feeling that you are doing Atma Ucharam will not be there when you are after the thoughts. Whereas in Dhyanam, we may get lost sometimes and realize suddenly, catch ourselves, oh, we are thinking other thoughts like that. In Atma Ucharam, it is direct. But here the Anubhava is what is highlighted. That in the Anubhava of I am, where the Nanudiyadulla Nilai has been sought and the destruction of the ego has been arrived at. What is the destruction of the ego being arrived at? That there are no more underlying vasanas that can push the ego back into the subject-object division. There are no more pending Karana Sharira vasanas which can make the ego rise and get caught in the triad of the subject, object, and the medium. All the vasanas being erased, the I is said to be destroyed. And when the I is destroyed, that is when one is abiding as that. So, at that point also, there is no way such a one will be doing Tattvamasi. The import being either in sadhana or in siddhate, self-enquiry and self-abidance are more than enough. One need not resort to holding the Supreme Being as an object of meditation as Tattvam Asi. Yesterday, while reading the talks with another Satsangi, she was reading some talk where the devotee was asking how to remain at your feet all the time. And Bhagavan said, hold the thought that the feeling that I am not at his feet should be dropped. Hold that thought and drop it. That I am not at his feet is the thought that is underlying this, implied in this feeling. How to hold his feet? What is implied? It is implied that I am not holding his feet. So instead of I am holding his feet, hold that thought that I am not holding his feet and let it go. And the devotee who was calling me asked her that who am I is also one such meditation, is it not? And we both discovered once again that Bhagavan is asking us to hold God in the first manifestation within each one of us. The first manifestation is the I thought. And when any other thought comes, we have to let it go and know that we are not holding the first manifestation of Bhagavan inside us. We are trying to use what Bhagavan is giving us. Whereas Bhagavan is present as the first rise of the I thought within each one of us. Therefore, who am I is the direct meditation of the first rise of the I thought, as which form Ishvara is present within each one of us. And when we trace the source of that I thought, the spurana, the ego dies out, the feeling that we are separate from the Supreme Being is erased completely. Nothing is apart from the Supreme Being, that the Supreme Being alone is experienced as the self alone is. That is the Mauna where the I does not arise. And Tattvamasi is the actual direct experience, Aparoksha Anubhuti. Let us sit in Atmavacharam for the next 15 minutes. I will request Ujjwal ji to set the time for us. Namo Ramana sir.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We continue by taking up the next verse selected for us, verse number 1012. 1012. The Mauna that is wholly and solely the self is a state in which the consciousness says, I, being revealed as ignorance, dies away. The Mauna is that the Mauna that is wholly and solely the self. The Mauna that is wholly and solely the self is a state in which the consciousness that says I, being revealed as ignorance, dies away. This alone possesses excellence. If you ask why, the answer is the desire for objects is the true cause for sorrows, whereas Mauna is the expanse of being, wherein there are no objects to desire. The Mauna that is wholly and solely the self is a state in which the consciousness that says I, being ignored as being revealed as ignorance, dies away. This alone possesses excellence. If you ask why, the answer is the desire for objects is the true cause of sorrow, whereas Mauna is the expanse of being, wherein there are no objects to desire. So the Buddha's truth, the second noble truth, that desire is the root cause of all misery, that there is misery is the first noble truth. Birth is sorrow, growth is sorrow, illness is sorrow, death is sorrow. It is sorrowful to be joined with that which you dislike. It is sorrow to be separated from that which you like. And then the like and dislike, which is desire, is the root cause of sorrow, is the second noble truth. Because it makes you feel implicitly discontent by desiring another object or desiring to be another self. What it implicitly means you are discontented with what you are. You are not looking at what you are. You are already looking at some object of envy, an object of desire, which you eagerly go after, forgetting that what do you imply? In fact, in one of the verses in Ulladanarpadu, Bhagavan would say that Uruvam Tanayin Ulag Paramatram. The objects take the form as gross objects or subtle objects only after the I desires to be a gross form or a subtle form. So the root of all desires is not in the object but to identify with the gross form or subtle form, and that is called as the ego. And the self or the Mauna is that state where this ego, that is to identify with the gross body or the subtle body, that is recognized as ignorance. Oh, this is the ignorance which makes me see other objects. My identification with physical body makes me look at somebody else who seems to have a better personality. My identification with the mental identity makes me look at somebody else who is a better father, better Indian. Can I be like that person who has fought for the independence of the country? Can I become like that? So, what is implied in that? The implication is that you are discontented with yourself. Why you are discontented? Because you have identified with the limited body, physical or subtle. So, when the ignorance, that is identification with the physical or subtle body, is erased for what it is, then that in that Mauna only the I is there. The consciousness is the expanse without the division as subject and object. When the subjective identity has been completely erased, all objects vanish and only the pure self, the I is there. This is the place where one is free of all misery, and therefore this is what is excellence. This is the supreme excellence. Yoga is said to be karmasu kausalam, excellence in action. This is the excellence supreme. If you want to be in excellence, then the best place to be is to be in Mauna, where the subjective ignorance of identification with gross and subtle body is erased and all the objects vanish. And since no objects are there for you to desire, the desires are completely exhausted. And that is the excellence. That is the completion of the sadhana in the most excellent form possible. That is, identify with the mauna, where the ahankara does not arise as the relative subject and gets itself lost in the field of multiplicity of objects. Neither the subject, relative subject, nor the multiplicity of objects is there. There is only the I, 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 which is beyond subject-object division, beyond knower, known division also. That is where the Atma Vicharam takes one, because it constantly draws our attention back from the object and puts it on the subjective ignorance, our identity with the gross form, our identity with the subtle form. That's what we are going to practice for the next 15 minutes. Ujjwalji will trouble you again for the setting of time. Namo Ramana.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. May I request Venkatesh Deshpande ji to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jnanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripaha, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripaha. Namo Ramana. So let's look at what's written on Swami Shivananda Samadhi. It's written, be good, do good. It's very simple, but the whole truth is in that. So what he says first is be good. Now when we do self-inquiry, what happens? When we ask a question, who am I? Do we get any answer? No, we don't get an answer. Keep on doing self-inquiry. Do we get an answer? No, we don't get an answer. Just go, keep on going inside. It's like, you have a statue. If you have a statue in your house, you have a Ganesha statue in your house. You go on asking questions to Ganesha, and you get no reply. Apply, no reply. There's no reply comes. Then what happens? What happens to the questions after that? There is no you run out of questions. So the questions are finished. And then what happens? The questioning also finishes. And then finally what happens? The fellow who's questioning also, well, the questioner itself vanishes. Because he says, what's the point in me doing this? Of on questioning. What happens? You come to a sort of stillness. You come to Jesus says, be still and know that I am God. When you come to that stillness, it is the goodness. See, beautiful. Be good. So when you come to that stillness, you're actually being good. Because you run out of questions. The questions are all finished. The questioning and doing it's all part of the doing part. In being, there's absolutely no question. You run out of questions. You're just being. Then what are you being? You're being good. Truly being good. When you are absolutely still, when you realize who you are, you realize, oh, I was looking for the goodness, but actually I am goodness. I am that happiness. Then what happens? You automatically go into stillness. Then what happens? Let's talk about the good second half. When you are the goodness, then what happens? Then goodness is. You realize, oh, goodness is. So then what happens? You ask, who is there to do good to whom? If goodness only is, then who is there? Is there somebody else out there that I need to do good to? No. There is no more doing. See, this is a beautiful thing. We need to understand. He says, first be good and then do good. So when we keep on doing self-inquiry and we realize we are goodness, incarnate, then what happens? Then say, let me do good. Who is there? There's nobody else but you. You're the only there, but only there's goodness. If there's no goodness, if there's only goodness, then what happens? There is no doing good. The doing good vanishes. The second half of the statement just vanishes. There's no doing good. Why? You are being good. So that's beauty about that statement. So if you focus on the being part, being good, then the doing vanishes. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana sir.
Thank you.
May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to do the Sri Ramana Stotram chanting for us. Namo Ramana sir. Namo Ramana Pratnama.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महोंशेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौळिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ च्यूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिकाखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलविद्बोधस्कन्धाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिवे नमः। ॐ आत्मा रामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मात्रमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादकसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋक्षान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाबन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रिशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषद्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानूररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासे कराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो रमण वैभव जी, नमो रमण प्रार्थना माँ, नमो रमण वेंकटेश जी, नमो रमण उज्जवल जी, नमो रमण अटवाल।
नमो रमण।